Got a koto. So, future state. We know where we are. We now need to figure out, where do we want to go? What does our nirvana look like? For this lesson, we'll talk about how to use the business agility radar to really identify your next stage, your next objectives. Okay? This will help feed us into mapping our bespoke agility roadmap. We'll also look at some potential hazards or problems that may arise and how you could go about guiding yourself through. Cool. So we started off this course understanding why. Why did we look at business agility as a benefit that may help our organization? We gave you some tools and some processes, introduced you to some frameworks around the design and the delivery. We touched at a high level on strategy, restructures, mindset. We mapped our current state and identified our stakeholders. We are now ready to start focusing on that future state. In the Surge world, we look at everything around the 4 values of business agility. Our purpose is to have greater customer and employee value. Now, strategically, you could decide on one or the other or both. That is totally up to your organization. The main things that we're going to measure are strategic agility, customer experience, cognitive diversity, and employee empowerment. We do that using the business agility radar. And we do have some KPIs in the previous lesson that allows you to understand how to measure for success. You may also choose your own, and that is totally fine as well. You are now a change agent of Surge. Upon finishing this course, after you completed the 100 question test, you will come into the alumni. In this alumni, we chat quite considerably about how to transform organizations. We learn from other people, we get some case studies, and it helps us evolve. And that's the whole point of Surge. Surge's name is a movement of people towards a set goal. Our goal is greater customer and employee value. So let's touch quickly on transformation versus continuous improvement. Because we talk about transformation a lot, and I use it myself as a word, but we got to remember, there is Kaizen versus Kaikaku. Kaizen towards Zen, towards perfection, never quite getting there, but heading in a general direction of continuous improvement. Kaizen. Kaikaku is all about rapid leaps of transformation. So it's loosely towards transformation. Now, when we're looking at buying a house, I always ask people, is the house now your end result? Is that where you want to be 20 years from now? When you first looked at buying a house, was your dream house different to your dream house today? It normally is. For me, I wanted the English stone house in a 20-acre plot of land. Now I'm living in town in a heritage colonial home. Completely different. As we go through buying a house, like transforming an organization, we must realize that where we think we're going to head to may actually change. In a complex world, stepping in the right direction makes sense. If you're in a complex industry, iteratively inspecting and adapting where your end goal will be makes more sense than transforming in one big bang. And that's because the time it takes you to transform, your goals may change, your customers may change, your employees may change. It's a moving beast. You don't want to plan for your end result and then have to move. You want to have a rough guide, a rough vision for where you want to go. And for me, every 90 days is this transformational strategy that we want to look at. If, for instance, you're in a complicated situation, like your home, if you know exactly what you want and it's never going to change, then there's no point iterating towards that goal. You should have a current state, and then you should plan and focus on delivering to the end state. So again, this is where we go back to the Cynefin model, where we go and say, right, are we in a complex industry or a complicated industry? Is our complicated industry turning complex? And therefore we need to iterate. If it's complicated and your employees and customers are not going to change, then one big bang transformation makes sense. For the vast majority of you watching this course, you are in a complex industry, or at least moving into one. The idea around the surge model is scale. We are going to start off with you. You are on this course. You are enjoying yourself, hopefully. You are learning some skills and a strategy to transform and obtain your 2 champions. These 2 champions are going to get more champions. And the idea behind the strategy is that you are going to scale and compound. So keep that in the back of your mind. We like to use the 3 horizon model. Now, we use it slightly differently to how the strategy guys would use it. The 3 horizon model is a idea that your horizon 1 is what you're doing now. Horizon 2 is almost like your next stage. And horizon 3 is basically these greenfield ideas for your organization. You're working in all 3 stages, but you're kind of focusing on your horizon 1 and then your horizon 2, and this improves your competitive advantage over time. How we use this is to go, right, what do we know right now? What can we change right now? What can we control? What can we influence? What's easy? How do we get an ROI straight away? Horizon 1. These are things we put most of our effort into at the start. Horizon 2 are things that we need to get done to increase customer value, but we can't do straight away. We need buy-in, we need some budget. It takes time. Part of our studies realized that if the board was involved in transformation, there was a negative correlation with customer value. And I believe that the reason why was because when we looked into it, they weren't delivering the value up front. They were trying to focus on culture change. And as a board of directors, I can understand that if they didn't see some sort of return on investment in the first 6 months to 9 months, they are not going to want to put any more money in. And I get that. It makes sense. So the 3 horizon model from Surge is all about providing value up front while paving the way for structural changes and then cultural change. The aim is still culture change, but it's through a process and tools into restructures into a culture change. You are empowering, enabling, and then delivering a cultural transformation towards people centricity. As you can see here, this always changes. But again, this is the go-to for me and my team. We will focus on the outcome-focused teams, tools and process, Kaizen model, 90-day strategy, and self-selection of teams, tribes, bands. These things are very easy to implement. So we look at a horizon 1 between 3 and 9 months. Horizon 2 is about embedding the customer, super leadership, continuous planning, tribe level items. These take a lot longer to implement. So we start building and putting the seeds down at the start, but we expect these to be done within 18 months. Whereas the Horizon 3, to completely restructure, have a evolutionary purpose, pancake hierarchies, this is 3 years away. And this is why I make the joke, it takes 3 minutes to learn Scrum, it takes 3 weeks to embed Scrum, it takes 3 months to get the benefits of Scrum, it takes 3 years for agility to really take off in an organization. And that's because culture takes 3 years. So where should we go first? This is your current state. Here's the recommendation that we here at Surge would say. Great, I love you got some green. I love the oranges sitting there. But you're amber right now. We need to round out the circle. And the reason why is all of these are interlinked. If you start focusing on your strengths, then those limitations are going to become more apparent to your staff. Your staff will start leaving. And if you think of a simple example, if a team is empowered and good agile ways of working, but things are centralized, you can't change Jira, you can't have Trello, you're not allowed to have Trello, security risk. People are going to leave. And this is one of the risks of if you evolve a certain area of your organization first, the same way as if you start doing one of these sections first, it will have an impact on the other areas, the other values. So in this example, we would say that the reds and the low ambers need to be rounded out first. And this will have an impact on your strategy. People ask me, but what's perfection? What's nirvana? We are all different. Okay, so put that in mind. Every company will be different, and your road to success will be different to somebody else's. But if I had a nirvana, and I take into consideration that most organizations are amber, I would still do this in an amber or orange organization. And this is because this sets you up for success towards green. And if you're amber at the moment, you'll start getting stuck in certain areas of this roadmap before an orange would. An orange culture will probably blitz through this a lot faster. An amber organization, you'll stop at one point and you have to remove blockers and you have to change culture slowly. So what is this area? Identify your value chain. We've done that. Train the leaders. This is all about the band here, right? So you've identified your band, got your vision, a single product vision that all work is aligned to. You train the leaders first, then you train the band. Now your training could just be this course or a similar course of this nature. You could get a coach in to help you train your people on new ways of working. It's all on the process and the tools to begin with. Processes and tools that allow culture growth, that don't limit culture growth. You then got to share the knowledge. Don't keep it to yourself. Share what's happened. Did you increase productivity by 13%? Share it. Make sure everybody knows about it. In the band, you're going to adopt, design, and delivery frameworks. Now, you could choose the ones from this course, or you could find your own. It's a lot easier to start with a out-of-the-box framework. And this is why I say to people that Scaled Agile framework, no, it's not agile, but it is the gateway drug to agile. So if you were amber here, SAFe makes total sense. Implement a version of SAFe that suits your organization or Spotify or whatever. Get yourself to outcome focused, get yourself in a structure of inspecting and adapting, and then move forward. If, however, you're already orange, your processes and tools may just need a tweak. So keep that in mind. Once you're up and running for a quarter, the next quarter, you want to be doing 90-day strategy or 90-day planning or big room planning or PI planning, whatever you want to call it. And this is because most organizations that are amber or orange will find themselves in yearly budgets or 3 yearly budgets. You want to get to a point where you're drawing down funds for a quarter. For that, it's different in every organization. You may have finance on board, you may not have finance on board. You may have HR on board, you may not have HR on board. But there is no blocker for you actually getting everyone who's required together to deliver within a band for 90 days. You can just call it project planning. And that's fine. All work is funneled into a single backlog, teams pull from the top and self-manage. Go back to the previous lesson and have a look at how 90-day strategy can work. The aim is to get there. This is not timelined. This could take only 3 months in certain organizations. It could take 9 months to get to that point. Once you've proven it works, the funding model comes next. Fantastic if your finance teams are on board, or if you're in finance right now and you're going, well, I have no problem with that. It has a higher IRR, internal rate of return. It has a higher ROI, return on investment, return over assets. ex-accountant, sorry. Great. But most times finance comes last. And if you can prove that it works and your predictability measures are spot on, and you're using the money to drive the highest rate of investment for the capital, finance will jump on board very quickly. It decreases their risk and it increases their return. And once you prove that, they'll join in. HR impacts are next. As your processes and tools start to change, you're going to have to upgrade your HR guides. Roles and responsibilities may change, KPIs may change, how work comes to you may change. There's a lot in HR, and I don't want to deviate away from the foundations course here. Have a chat with your HR after you've done 90-day planning and go from there. It gets quite fluffy towards the end because you don't know how long this is going to be. But this is nirvana, right? So let's say we're 6 months down the line. You start scaling to the tribe. So remember, you go either side of the bands and you keep scaling to the tribe. And this is why it depends. It depends how long it would take, because if there are multiple bands, 6, 7 bands, this could take you 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. But you want to repeat the band steps until all bands are inside the value chain in the same 90-day planning session. And that's magical. When you get 300-400 people together for strategy planning days, magic happens. Risks are reduced, time to market is decreased, customer values increase, happiness increases. It's a good time. It's a good time. Then comes Tribe SelfSelect. Tribe SelfSelect is people get to choose which band or tribe, depending on how you set it up in your organization, they want to work in. And we'll go through a little bit of that in a minute on how to do that. But it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see if teams choose their own products, i.e. bands or teams. And then it's even cooler when the teams start choosing their own tribes and which problem they want to solve. It's cool to see. At the end of this nirvana, you have Kaizen, which is creation of a portfolio Kaizen board for continuous improvement of the tribe. And that's the key bit there. It's continuous improvement of the tribe. Once your tribe is set in stone, you've hit, depending on what level you've gone, you should be orange or green for that tribe quite easily. If you're amber, you'd have reached orange and you'd have been very happy and you need to move into other tribes or have some good feedback from the board that you can segment off properly. I always say start where you can. Team, band, tribe is my preferred method. I like a really small pilot of just a team, just test the waters to see what kind of processes happen, what impacts that happen over a few weeks. Then I like to move into a band. Straight away finding the right backlog, the right band, working out the strategy, and then getting the right 50 people together to start moving forward. Measure, 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 and then show your benefits. If there's no benefits, do not scale. Don't scale what doesn't work, scale what works. Then move to the tribe, and so on. So you want a vision. You want to understand how many people, how many value chains your organization has. Because you probably have a few. If you're an incumbent organization, you will probably have a few value chains, a few customer segmentations. So you want to choose one that makes sense. One value chain that makes sense. Prefer the one that you are in, it makes it easier. You want to draw out the value chain and choose which band to pilot. So we've been through all this before. This is just to remind you what you should be doing up and towards getting that vision. Stakeholder analysis, find who is best to lead the vision. It may not be you. You want to find the chief influencer officer of that band and make them the champions. They're the people listen to. And it's not always a CEO. It's not always a CIO. It will be someone who normally runs the ping pong tournaments. Or it could be somebody who organizes events, something that people follow. The technical lead could be the person as well. There's always somebody that's Mr. or Mrs. Popular. Create open communications about the vision for the band. Put it up on the wall. Send out communications. Don't make it internal. Send it all out. And that will be the steps for vision. Once you've got your vision, you're going to create a plan to train everyone on the vision, but everything else. Every new band contract must be aligned to the vision. So you start having a band contract, so a social contract. How are we going to work? What are we going to do, etc. And you make sure that that's aligned to the vision. So see how we're creating a step-by-step again, right? They're all things to come in to make the vision. Once we have a vision, the band then aligns their social contract to the vision. Organize training for the leaders and then everybody else. Again, the reason why is because you want leaders to be on board with what's going on. You don't want them to be a blocker. Document the customer you service and communicate the persona and how you communicate with them. Again, all the design thinking tools you've done in the previous lessons, do it with your new band. So you would have a vision, a band social contract, you'd have the persona of the person you're dealing with, the product vision, the product roadmap if it makes sense for you, etc. All lined up, ready to go. All so you can actually get work done and align it to that customer value. Processes and tools, these are things, it's up to you. But you could engage the band, you could ask them, what do they want to trial? Do they want lightweight frameworks? Hire and train new roles and responsibilities if it makes sense. Organize into teams. Again, 5-people teams would be best. Find the right teams. I prefer people to choose their own teams, but it may not be practical or they may not be ready. If you're in an amber organization, definitely choose teams yourself. If you're in an orange organization, trial team self-selection. You want to have community-based workflow, so Jira and Trello's. That's what I recommend, but up to you as long as it's a highly transparent workflow. Transparent documentation, so Confluence and SharePoint, making sure that everyone can read everything, can learn from each other. Face-to-face communication, Skype or Zoom. Again, check your focal lengths of your cameras, get good audio, etc. Decentralized design, especially during COVID times, you want to make sure that your mural is working or your Miro. Actually prefer Miro now, M-I-R-O. Team's delivery of new value and maintain features should start straight away. So DevOps, you want to deliver new value and you want to maintain that value. So get people who will be CapEx and OpEx and make it open knowledge and visible workflow. So up on the wall, communicate regularly, open knowledge. The 90-day planning, think of your finance and your government impacts. Make sure you do your demand and capacity management process. Align to strategic goals. You want those on board as well. You want a single backlog. You don't want multiple backlogs. And you don't want backlogs that are already predefined for certain teams. It makes no sense. It's a lot harder that way. Look at the impacts on EPMO reporting. Just a heads up for that, because if you don't get your reporting aligned, you'll be told you're useless. So, and what other new reporting could you do? Don't tell EPMO that they have to use your new reports. Do their old reports, show them the new reports, and show them the delta. Get the leaders on board and not disrupting. If you have the leaders on board and they're not disrupting a 90-day planning, it is magical. If you have leaders who are disrupting or putting negative energy into 90-day planning, don't do it yet. You're not ready. Scale to the tribe. It's one little band. 50 people smashing through the work. You've had 4x of productivity gains. Everyone's happy. Time to scale, right? Scale what works, throw away what does not. Don't get into this inflexible approach to scaling. It's one of the worst things you can do. It's like taking Scrum and putting it in a finance department and saying that they're agile. No. Take what works from your band and put it over here and see if it works. Adapt if needed. You want to be flexible in your approach to flexibility. So tribe self-select. So this is good fun. And you can use this for team self-selection, band self-selection, tribe self-selection. It's the same process. Someone will show the customer vision. Okay, so you're in the tribe, there's 250 people, and let's call it a product manager or a customer manager, or the customer themselves would be fantastic. They're showing the customer vision, where we are heading. It's not outcomes, it is it's just objectives. Then you may have things, product managers in Scrum or Scaled Agile framework. You may have customer owners, feature owners, whatever you call them. The people, component owners, there's lots of names now. The people who are taking the outcomes and are looking at that being their vision. So think about the customer owner up here. They are the customer journey. And these guys here, these are the certain pain points. This is finance pain point. That's a balloon air pain point. And the guy up there is a money pain point. Making stuff up now. And you want them to basically show their vision. They're showing the product vision. You've got the customer vision, the product vision. Customer journey, product journey. Two separate things. They're going to explain the constraints. But it's not free for all. There are some constraints. You need certain skills. You need a certain amount of people. Minimum and maximum. You'll need to have no dependencies. You want this person maybe. I don't know. It's up to you. More constraints means less trust. Less constraints means more ambiguity. Then you just get out of the room. So all leaders just leave the room. Have someone facilitating, that'd be nice, but just leave the room. You're outside for escalation purposes, and I've only had one time when something got escalated, and I was facilitating at the time, and it wasn't arguments, but it was borderline. So I said, right, escalation time. They make the call. We're going to trust the teams. Okay, so there could be 50 people in the room, there could be 250 people in the room. We're going to trust them. They're going to finalize their own bands. Okay, if you're doing a tribe one, they're going to finalize their teams or squads. And if you're just doing the band, they're going to do their teams and squads. And then we're going to trust the teams. It's as simple as that. They know what they need to do to get the work done. They don't need us telling them what to do. This one fun thing, when your teams are ready to do this, can work magic. Not only does it de-risk you because suddenly there's all these people who actually know this product inside and out, telling you what skills you actually require, how many people we actually require, getting the people who they want to work with. But we get to engage the employees to actually feel like they are making choices. And they're making choices themselves. This drives massive intrinsic motivation. It's probably the main reason why this works so well. At the end of your tribe, you want to have a Kaizen board. Now, the Kaizen board is actually what I recommend for a transformational journey. So I'm double dipping my lessons here. You have these objectives and you've broken them down into outcomes. In the outcomes, you've prioritized them. And here's 3. Why I love this to be visible is all the outputs you could trial. You do it in 90-day planning, but if someone comes along and puts a nice little sticky on there, you may get some magic. I remember one time in a ministry where somebody put a sticky on one of my outcomes and I thought, that's great. I never even thought about that. So keep it visible, keep the Kaizen board very visible. Tribes create their own continuous improvement Kaizen board. Anyone can add to the outputs and have a work in progress limit. And that's as simple as it is. And this could be your projects, all your projects. This is the outcomes you're looking to achieve at a strategic level. These are all the outputs that you think with different projects. And you're going to have 3 projects in flight. You could have features in flight. There are projects in flight. It does not matter how you do it. As long as you're splitting it up into objectives, outcomes, outputs, and you're at a high level, making sure you're in progress as a work in progress limit. At the end, don't forget to measure. Did this increase customer value? Did it get you closer to your objective? If it didn't, trash it. Unwind the changes. If it did, keep it and maintain it. You can use the Kaizen for transformational strategy. We're going to use that as well during the next lesson. And it's how I like to do things. So at a very high level quickly now, our objective will be one segment, or it could even be simple as moving from amber to orange, but I don't recommend it. I always go with a segment, so strategic agility to orange. And then our outcomes will be, if there's your amber in all three of them, you'll be moved to orange in all three. So if you look at the wording on the questions of the business agility radar, you'll realize that the values can be objectives, the segments can be outcomes, and then the outputs can be all the things you've learned during this course. All these different things to trial. And you could try, some will work, some will not. It depends on your organization. Cool, so we are going to decide 3 core objectives, okay? You choose one. And this is where I say your 3 objectives could be, okay, I'm gonna move from amber to orange, or I'm gonna say, I'm gonna have horizon 1. That's just gonna be one specific thing, process and tools. We're gonna decide the outcomes for that objective. And then we're gonna list the outputs you can trial. And you can take all the ones from this course and you can plonk them on your board. But let's say, that's mapping your journey. We'll quickly go over some possible problems. Okay, I mean, it's change. There's always fun things that happen during change. Tell me why Agile hasn't worked for you before. That's because you wasn't doing Agile at all. Difficult conversations happen all the time. And it's normally a problem with listening. People don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. So what I want you to keep in the back of your mind is not only is the other person doing this, but are you doing this? The stages, there's always stages, right? I'm always gonna give you a progressional chart. There's responding. People who wait until someone finishes, sometimes, and then they respond with a question that they've already gonna say in the first place. Trying to persuade someone, they're just responding. It's a very bad thing to do. No one feels the empathy and it causes conflict of interest. The other 3 stages, I find them all quite the same, but reflecting is the best one. But yeah, we'll get to that. Repeating, pay attention, remembering, repeat back to clarify. So you're basically responding, but you're just saying, hey, is this what I heard? Paraphrasing is you've paid attention, you're remembering, you're thinking, and you're using questions in your own words to clarify. Okay? Or similar words, sorry. Reflecting is using your own words. You see how they're very different, very similar, sorry? All 3 of them are you're thinking about it, taking your time, and you're using clarifying questions. So if someone comes to you and starts raising concerns, the first thing to do is to really listen to them. And then go, hey, I think this is what I'm hearing. I just double check, is this the case? You're just clarifying, but you've heard them, you've understood them. They'll feel like their opinion is valued. And that's what's key. So active listening is a skill that even myself, I have problems with. If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. But once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. Albert Einstein. Or one of the quotes that Albert Einstein probably never said, but it's a good quote. Questions are very important, and how you ask them will determine how someone responds to you and whether or not you actually start to see value. There are so many types of questions, and coaches will tell you you should only use open questions. I disagree. I think there are reasons to use all sorts of questions. But here's some examples. An open question. What are the concerns and worries about the situation? You're opening it up for discussion. And that's a good thing. You get some amazing in-depth conversations with people who actually have open questions. And as you saw with design thinking, asking open questions led to some amazing results. Reflective. How would you prioritize the most critical areas for attention first, and then make sure that everyone knew what was most important? So you're kind of like reflecting on what someone said and you're asking them to reflect back. It's a good question to have, especially if you have the time to have a conversation. Probing. Getting to the point. Can you explain the importance? Sometimes that can be the wrong approach. It depends on if they are a combative or a champion. If they're a champion or a neutral, I would use probing questions to get to the point faster. Leading questions. Can you explain how to? You're just trying to ask a question to get them to actually answer something or to get them thinking about something else. Leading questions are powerful questions. But don't let anyone tell you can't use a leading question. They are time savers and they can help the person kind of have an aha moment. Hypothetical questions. If you could get additional funding or resources, how might that help? You get them to think about possible solutions. And then deflective. What can we do to make things right? Someone comes at you combatively, like, well, how can we help you? How can we help together? How can we solve this together? A good model that I quite like is a way to get to the end. So a lot of this problem solving, you'll find the idea is to take someone who's combative and bring them on a journey, or at least don't escalate the situation. And this is one way of doing that. At the start of a problem, you want to diagnose the reasons. Now, always start with an open question. It allows them to think, makes them feel like you've listened to them, you respect them, and people like to feel respected. Listen and ask an open question. And then it really depends on your style of communication and who the people are you're talking to. But as you can see, the idea is to get to the end, which is to visualize actions, capabilities, and confirm at the end. Almost a yes/no answer. Is this what we want to do? Yes, no, cool. But you're really going to basically look at start, you could control the question and then confirm the question, explore impacts, visualize capabilities. The quickest way is to diagnose the reasons they have a concern, explore the impacts of said concern, and then visualize an action that they can take out of it. But if you don't get the answers that you need to be able to visualize capabilities, you need to ask a different question. And this is where you could explore impacts with a controlled question, and then confirm questions, exploring the impact, and then visualize capabilities. And this is a good mind model just to remember when you're ever in any sort of conflict and you want to resolve that with an action, because you want to move forward. You don't want to just leave it ambiguous. I like to throw in a little bit of psychology here and there. This is something I hope that no one will abuse. But feel, felt, found is a great bit of fun. And you can use it in your sales pitches, you can use it in change management. Humans, this works on, I think it's something like 82% of the time. But don't abuse it. This is also good to remember if you've ever been sold to. Okay? So a manager walks in angry with your Kaizen board. You set this beautiful Kaizen board over here. And the manager walks in angry because they didn't agree to Agile. What's going on? Start off with empathy. Always start with empathy. I understand how you feel. Janet and I are still feeling excited. Yeah, you're empathy, but you're actually flipping it. Authority. Did you know that 74% of great leaders felt worried and even tried to block progress? So authority above the person you're talking to. Solution and inclusion. Always include them. Research shows that the leaders that found a solution to greater customer value were rewarded, while others, like ING, where 80% of managers were made redundant, were not. And we have a strategy. Did you want to be part of our weekly updates? This exact example was one I used about 3 years ago. This person, yes, I want to be involved in the weekly updates, was still angry. I think they knew I manipulated them a little bit there. But they were involved in the weekly updates from then on. They went from combative to neutral to a champion of this new process within 3 weeks. It was astonishing to see. And all it was because I used empathy to understand them, slightly tricking them into an authority position, and then including them in the process. Obviously change this up depending on what it is you're working on. But if you're looking for the greater good, and it is for the greater good of the organization, feel free to use this. And if you find that this has got good solutions, it's something for the back pocket. Another conflict resolution thing for you to think about. You always want to start off with identifying the problem. If someone comes at you and they're arguing with you and you don't know what's going on, you need to ask about open questions around identifying the problem. Like, what's the problem here? Then look towards the feelings. Because we're human. If it was a logical argument, you would find a logical solution. And as we know with the black and white thinking, there's always some gray area. So identify the feelings and the emotions that are involved in the conversation. What do they really want? Are we making them look silly? Did we not include them? I'm sorry. Identify the impact. Now what you want to do here is you want to go, right, this is what they're saying, this is what we're doing. What would be the impact? The pros impact, the cons impact? Again, polarity management, right? Find that delta. Normally you'll find people have a problem with a change and they don't even understand what the outcome could be. But once you get that, you get the problem and the feelings behind it, and you realize the delta difference between the two solutions. Data by data, yep. Negotiate. Don't be all like black and white yourself. Like, oh, no, that's actually quite interesting. I like that. That's good. But if we did your way, we would miss out on these benefits. Is there something we can do together that gets benefits of both worlds? Oh, yeah, good idea, Tom. And you and Tom create a new solution. You can always try, and once you're there, go a little bit further. What you've come across is a change that's too much, too soon for that person. And this is why we need to focus on small changes. The rate of change, the change capacity is different for every individual and every team and every band and every tribe. So how fast your teams can move will be dependent on their own rate of change. And once you realize what that rate of change is, you can readjust your roadmap. Another problem you could have is if you try to implement business agility without a problem to solve. And I think by now, you'd have realized I've gone on and on and on that only if it makes sense for your organization. Don't go and change for no reason. Here's some problems. 16% of projects are completed on time and on budget. 31% of projects are cancelled. 53% of projects see cost growth exceed 89%. If that is you, then this could be a good solution for you. Because you're doing the wrong things in the wrong way. You want to be using the right tools in the right way. You could also get problems if Agile is done to people and not with them. And this is why you'll see with the stakeholder matrix, the current state analysis, the visibility. You're not in a room deciding the fate of everyone's world. You're out in the open talking about what we could achieve. What can we do? You can also have problems if you don't engage all the stakeholders that are needed. By ignoring that one person and then they talk to somebody else who talks to somebody else and it spirals out of control. That's why for me, the first few weeks of an organization I'm in, I do that stakeholder analysis. I know exactly who could be a problem, who won't be a problem, who do I need to communicate more to, who I do not communicate to at all because they don't want to hear about it. You need to understand those impacts. And not considering the full scope of changes required. Now, I've touched on a lot of things here in this course, of all the things you could trial and the impacts of those. It'll be different for your organization. And I need you to really have a look at what could be impacted. Once you do the value chain and stakeholder matrix, a lot of things are mitigated, which is great. But just double check that there's no partners, customer reporting, ministry reporting, etc. Choosing the wrong pilot can cause a whole bunch of issues. If you go too small, no one cares. No one believes you. If you go too large, you won't get results quickly enough. And I recommend getting some form of results within 3 to 6 months. If you don't get those results then how can you want to scale that in an appropriate time frame? Black and white thinking. That's not agile. You need to be flexible in your approach to flexibility. And I've said that time and time again. Flexible in your approach to flexibility. Flexibility, adaptability, responsive organizations are what are getting the highest competitive advantage and therefore the best business outcomes. But you can't just be all, let's just do this. You need to find your gray areas, your deltas, and understand people are not math. Here's some common pitfalls. Say agile one more time. Team's too big, too many dependencies. So team's too big. Look, I love 5 people, but I keep hearing about these 15-person teams. So 10 people is better than 15. 8's better than 10. 5's better than 8. Okay, start where you can, move from there. Too many dependencies. If you have a spaghetti dependency maps going on, just start again. Reshuffle the teams. People are going to think this is agile, and it's not. Waterfall in sprints, yeah, it's not good. If you have design sprints, development sprints, testing sprints, you're not in sprints. You're not doing agile. You don't have the ability to adapt fast enough. You don't have an agility organization. Don't pretend that you are. If you're doing Scrum, but no continuous improvement, you're not doing Scrum. And if you're still doing Scrum to the book 6 months after starting, don't think you're doing continuous improvement. More than one person prioritizing the backlog, I've never seen it work. And people who say they've seen it work, when I probe them, they have not seen it properly work. You don't want a committee doing prioritization. I even got problems with an organization that set up a 12-person committee to do the organization strategy. I spent 6 months trying to facilitate arguments. In the end, I made a mathematical approach to prioritizing strategic initiatives. And even then, I don't think they really bought into it. 12 people, too many. 1, perfect. And if you can't empower one person, separate backlogs. A lot easier with separate backlogs than one backlog that nothing gets done. Like, common arguments for agile delivery anyway, this is specifically agile delivery. We are different, we have set deliverables, implementation of agile takes way too long, agile is not holistic, agile delivery does not work for big projects with set deadlines, the team doesn't want it. Which ones of these will I accept as a valid argument? If you said the team doesn't want it and we have a set deliverable, I'd agree. If the team doesn't want agile, don't give them agile. They'll just find ways around it and it's not worth it. We have a set deliverable, so it's complicated. If it's complicated or simple, don't go agile. Just deliver it and work on other areas of the organization that make more sense. Things that sometimes I think maybe agile is not holistic. Yeah, agility is holistic. Agility is about the whole organization. Agile is about delivery, especially software delivery. Excuses, rather than arguments that I won't take. We are different. Exactly. And that's why you need agile. Implementation of agile takes way too long. Takes 3 weeks. Agile delivery does not work for big projects with set deadlines. Really? Because that's exactly why Agile does work. But why they say this, right, is they'll say that they have to get it done. Everything's important. And by not giving those deadlines, then you're going to fail somehow. You're going to fail anyway, but at least now you know you're going to fail. So what blockers could you face? Have a think for the next 10 minutes. Coming to the end of the lesson now. Have a think for the next 10 minutes what blockers you currently face. Thank you.